Welcome to Season 3 of the Get Out of Teaching podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Diakos. In each episode of this season, I'll be coaching a teacher around one aspect of their move out of education. You'll have the privilege of listening in on the powerful coaching conversations that move people closer to a life they love. So come along for the ride as we get out of teaching. Episode 1. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this little experiment today. So we're going to have a coaching conversation in a few minutes, and you've got a topic that you wanted to bring to the table. But beforehand, I just wanted to just quickly introduce you. So Laura and I have been working together, or have in the past worked together. She is one of my coaching clients. And maybe, Laura, you could just tell us what you're up to right now.
Okay, thanks for having me, Elizabeth. I'm really looking forward to our conversation that we're about to have. So I've been in teaching for over 20 years now, and the last 2 years I've been wanting to get out of teaching and look for something different. I found myself in the last 6 years just bouncing from toxic workplace to toxic workplace, and it's just not how I want to. Not how I want my career to continue, and I want to be able to have a more fulfilling work life and authentically make a difference in people's lives. So I'm at the point now where I've taken some leave from my teaching position, and I've got now time to put a few things in place in order for me not to have to go back to the classroom.
Right. Okay. So you're at because we started working together probably 18 months ago. Is that about right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And during that time, you kind of, I guess, oscillated a little bit about being, whether you had more to give to the profession. And I remember that conversation where you felt that you did still want to keep working as a teacher. Obviously, that situation has evolved, to put that kindly.
Yep, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and so now you're at a point where it seems to me like you're actually ready to take that final step out.
Yeah, it's crunch time now. It's I don't want it. That whole Maria Kondo thing. Does it spark joy? It actually is not sparking joy, and I need to get rid of it because there's no. I don't have that joy going into the classroom and teaching anymore. I love kids and I love working with teenagers. I love having conversations with them and hearing all their ideas and seeing life through their eyes. But teaching is just not the way forward for me anymore with students. I just know. I've now seen and I've now experienced that it's now time to make that change and to do something different.
Right. Okay. So let's get started then on our coaching conversation.
Right. Perfect.
What are you bringing to the table today?
Okay. So what I'm finding most overwhelming is I know with my next steps that I would like to get into counselling and coaching. So I've done the coaching side of the study and the qualifications, and I'm now working on the counselling side of things in order to be able to open up my own private practice. I guess what I'm finding most overwhelming is where do I start in terms of trying to get that enthusiasm to have that social media presence, to understand all the different cogs in the wheel for starting your own business and following that dream through. So that's, I guess, what I'm finding most overwhelming at this moment in time, and what is the next steps.
Yeah, and that's huge, isn't it?
It is huge. I'm looking at other people's websites, and I'm looking what they're doing on Facebook, and I'm looking what they're doing on Instagram, because I'm not an Instagram person. So it's really overwhelming. And even then looking at LinkedIn and what people are doing, and I'm just like, where do I start? What do I do in order to start building building that presence and I guess, is it building a brand? I'm not sure. See, I don't have that business know-how. So I guess my block at the moment is how do I move forward in getting that started? Because when you're in teaching, it's someone else who's running the show. Yeah. Even though I have that experience of running a show as a principal, it's a different show because you've got different people, you've got a team around you to help you to that you can give, I can't think of the word. I'm still obviously in holiday mode, but you can't allocate and delegate. That's the word. You can't delegate all the different tasks and things and call on other people's skill set because they're within your company and you can do that. So I'm finding that next step quite overwhelming. So I'd really love to talk through that and what I can do to not make it so big in my head, I guess.
Okay. So one of the first questions I think that you need to address in that situation is, who do you actually want to work with? Like, you've identified that you want to be in some kind of counselling or consulting or coaching role, but who, I think knowing who your niche is, like who are you actually going to serve, is probably the first step. So for instance, if you say, like for me, I say, I help teachers get out of teaching into a life they love. So I help X do Y so that Z happens.
Sorry, I'm just writing this down.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead. So yeah, so I help X do Y so that Z will happen.
So this is where I'm a little bit stuck as well, because I'd like to help, like I still would love to work with young people, but I see a real need to help teachers who want to stay in teaching but are struggling with all the overwhelming things that come with it. So, but whether it's so maybe I help people to
who are the people?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I'm not sure. So I'd like but am I just going for teachers because I think that's all I know?
Are you?
Yeah, I think that's probably what I am doing. I'm thinking teaching is what I know. But I just want to help I don't know. I just want to help people. Okay,
so people's massive. I don't even know how many people live on this planet right now, but there's a lot.
Massive. Yeah,
massive. So what we need to do, and this is probably the hardest part of the whole thing, because once this is clear, then Laura, you'll actually know what to do next, or it'll really give you a lot more clarity about what's the next step. So I started out working with year 11 and 12 students, and I discovered something really important. You have to convince them and their parents to work with you. And the parents need to pay.
Yeah.
The client's not the one paying.
Yeah.
And so there's this big disconnect in terms of investment, like, in the skin in the game.
Yeah.
If it's a teenager, they don't have skin in the game, their parent does. And I found that really difficult to deal with myself. And so then I started working with entrepreneurs because my parents had been entrepreneurs, and I felt like I understood some of that founders sort of part of the world. But in the end, it just wasn't a good fit. And again, partly it was because they were living off the smell of an oily rag themselves, and they just weren't in a position to invest in themselves in the way that I didn't want to have these really excruciating conversations about money.
Yeah.
And how did I find that out? Because I had lots of excruciating conversations about money. And now it's very different, because I've found a niche to work with who are actually willing, once they overcome that hurdle of, I'm so used to someone else running the show for me, like you just said. I've discovered this by working with, slightly older teachers who are a bit more established and a bit more sort of self-directed. They're actually willing to invest in their own self-development. And so the conversation becomes more of, is now the right time, rather than am I prepared to do that? So it's been very different. Now, that doesn't mean that people shouldn't work with those other groups, but that was just my experience. And I wonder, like, how long you've got to have those excruciating conversations before you.
I don't have a long time. So what I can see just from listening to what you were saying, I've got 2 possible pathways.
Okay.
So
great.
My first one can be, I help aspiring leaders and leaders in school to develop leadership skills, so that they can be the leaders that they want to be. That sounds really, cliche or whatever.
That's okay. That's a really great start.
But I'm thinking, so that's what I can see with my coaching side of things, because I guess that's one thing that I'm finding really frustrating at the moment, going back into school and seeing people who need leadership development, but I don't think they know how to go about getting leadership development without and having those conversations that focus on that personal and professional development, which you wouldn't normally get in a PD session run by some wacky-do company or coming.
Yeah.
So
they'll do De Bono's hats or something, but they won't help you to be a better leader. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So I see that being something where I do want to help aspiring teachers, or even having those conversations with principals, because I'm still having a few conversations with principals, professional conversations where they're bringing what's happening in their world and bouncing off ideas, and I really enjoy that, because I know that I'm making a difference there, having that, and they enjoy speaking to someone who isn't connected to their school, but still understands that pressure of running a school, of working with people. So I really enjoy those professional conversations. So that would be something where the coaching would go.
Yeah.
As for the counselling,
so it's like your number 2 option?
Yeah, number 2 option, or being able to offer the 2 things. Sorry, I just dropped my pen. And I guess the other 2, with the counselling, I'd really like to be able. So yeah, I'm still trying to work out that one, where I want to go with that, and what will be my market with that, because the things that I'm focusing on are more like the alternative therapies, like art therapy, music therapy, drama therapy, play therapy, rather than just going into the whole abuse, that kind of counselling. I don't really want to go down that pathway.
Okay, so more of a kind of a positive future rather than
yes. That's what I'd like to focus on, and I think it's I probably need to think about that one a little bit more in terms of where I want my counselling to go. But I do know that with the coaching, the supporting aspiring leaders and current leaders is where I would like to focus that on.
Tell me about these leaders. Like, what are they like? Like, what are their characteristics? Let's focus on that. I think that's a good place to start. While you brew on the other option, let's start here, because what it might be good, and I know that you like working in this space because you did a bit of volunteer work or like unpaid work while we were working together, and you really seem to love it. I'm just thinking, maybe this is worth eliminating, or at least, exploring further with a view to deciding if it's actually going to be the right niche for you.
Yes. Okay.
One way or the other, because sometimes if you don't know what you do want, it helps to say what you don't want.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, I've eliminated, half the population or whatever, by you know, an age cutoff, or I'm working with only men or only women or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's ways to actually help you with that decision making just by eliminating options.
Yeah.
So who are these leaders?
Okay, so they're leaders who are courageous, are willing to learn from their mistakes. They are strategic. They see the big picture. They're empathetic. They're willing to listen and learn. And they are risk takers. And by risk takers, I mean, you know, they'll take that calculated risk, I guess, rather than and people and they are leaders who want to build leaders within their staff, and willing to work on relationships. Am I looking for a unicorn?
No, I don't think you are, actually. I think there are people out there, and what happens is it just gets beaten out of them.
Of course it does, and I think that, and that's the sad thing, and I want to be able to. That's the sad thing and the reality of working in a school. However, if I can get to those people, then I can uplift and inspire them to keep on going. You know, and help them manage burnout, and be that sounding board that if they need to talk through an issue or a problem. So, for example, one of the principals I was working with had to put a teacher on a teacher improvement program, and just all she wanted was to be able to talk through the processes that she was following and get that validation from, I guess, a peer professional to just know that the steps that she was following was ethical, within policy, and that it was being done right, right and just and fair.
Got it.
So I was able to, you know, we were able to compare experiences with dealing with working with a teacher when that is happening, and that was actually really quite positive because we learned a lot from each other. So even though it's a coaching conversation, I was learning as well, because different system, different processes, but essentially there's fundamental things which are the same because you've got to do things that align with your morals and your values.
Yes.
So I found that particular situation of benefit, and even the principal was like, yeah, you know, that was just like the best thing, just to be able to talk to someone who wasn't connected to it. But when she was giving herself a hard time, I was like able to say, hang on a minute, stop. What have you been doing? What are the processes that you have in place? So she was able to see, because when you're amongst that, when you're in that kind of, I guess, crisis mode, you don't necessarily see the bigger picture, or you get caught up in the emotion of it, because it's a tough situation to be in when a teacher is on an improvement program, and it's very stressful. Small school, so all the other staff knew, so everyone's sort of like walking on eggshells. How do you manage that? So for her to be able to have that conversation, and for me to be able to support her through that process was quite was really good, and I felt good professionally from my point of view as well, because I knew that I was on the right track. She was giving me validation as well.
Yeah. And I'm just going to take you back to your description of your ideal client.
Yep.
I'm going to read it back to you. I I think I got it all. And then I want you to tell me how you could put that into like 3 words.
Okay.
Courageous, willing to learn from mistakes, strategic. See the big picture. Sorry, I couldn't read my own writing there. Empathetic, willing to listen and learn, risk taker, leaders who want to build leadership and work on relationships. So like build leadership in their, you know, the other people around them, and also to work on relationships. So when I read all that back to you, how could you describe that person?
In 3 words. Wow. Okay. I think courageous has to come through it.
Mm-hmm.
Courageous, a learner.
Yeah.
And can we hyphen the word emotional intelligence? I'm thinking it's got to be someone who is, that's tricky putting it into 3 words, because it's someone who's wanting to just be better, be that 1% better every day.
Right. Nice. Can I just a little bit of background in French?
Yep.
And I guess it's probably from Latin, but it means heart. Courage comes from the word heart.
Yeah, wow.
So I wonder if there's something there that you could use.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought of that principle needing to have and needing to be the heartbeat of a school.
Oh, I love that. Oh, goosebumps.
Because without that, what? Why are you in? Why are you in? You've got to have that to be in that position, because yes, you've got all these things that you need to deal with the day-to-day management of the school, but every day you've got to create a safe and supportive environment for your students and your staff and for yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So it's something I like that idea of the heartbeat. That's a really lovely image. I wonder if there's something there that you could explore
a bit further.
So I mean, you almost want to say something like heartbeat leaders, but that's not quite right, is it? It's a bit clumsy, but I wonder if there's something else there.
Something else there, yeah.
Let's just jump forward to what you're going to help them do.
Yeah, okay. So what I would help them to do is
so just, you said uplift and inspire them.
Yep.
Help them manage burnout and be a sounding board. But yes, what outcome would there be for them? Because if you're going to sell something to them, you need to have an outcome.
Yeah. So I guess the outcome would be that through developing themselves as a leader, that they will be better equipped to support their staff in, then it just becomes all technical, like, you know, in supporting their staff to inspire their students. Like, everything always comes down to
so I help X to do Y so that Z will happen.
Yeah. So I help leaders or aspiring leaders.
So do you mind if I make a suggestion about that?
Go for it. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So this is not great coaching, because I'm meant to let you, find that yourself, but you can always say no. What about I help heart-centered leaders?
Heart-centered leaders, love it. Yeah.
Now that, of course, they're going to put their own interpretation on what that means for them.
Yeah.
But you're also going to not be speaking the language of a whole heap of leaders who don't think of themselves in that way. Yeah. And that's probably a really good thing, because they're not your target audience.
Yeah.
And are these education leaders?
You know what? I think so, because I think that I guess my little soapbox has been lately is that if I can help or support just a handful of leaders, then that's a better experience for teachers and
yeah, massive impact.
Students. Because I think, we get so caught up in data this, data that, and the everyday running things and improving student outcomes and different things. And I guess the past experiences that I've had in school, because I guess I'm a heart-centered leader. I'm an empathetic person, and I'm a carer and a giver. And particularly in my last experience in a school, I think if there had been more of I like that heart-centered leadership approach, I think things would have been extremely different. And the experience would have been extremely different. And I think instead of teachers going home crying every afternoon, there would have been a very different feel about school and about self-preservation and about looking after the well-being of teachers.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap this up with your statement.
Okay.
So, hi, I'm Laura. I help heart-centered leaders. What?
Okay. To yeah, this is tricky, huh? There's so much I want to say. So I help heart-centered leaders to...
Is it something like build capacity?
Yeah, I was actually just about to say to build the capacity of their staff and students, because it's all part of it, to
so that Z will happen. What will happen if that happens?
What will happen is that we'll actually have a genuinely more positive experience for all at school. We'll actually have professional working environments. We'll actually have more engaged students because their teachers are happy and their well-being is being looked after, and we'll actually have
so it's something to do with the school environment, to create some kind of school environment.
Yes. So I just can't seem to go back to all the used words like positive school culture or
okay, or maybe Tama, if you don't like positive, and I know that's almost gone back the other way. Like I did a Masters of Applied Positive Psychology, and now every time I see the word positive, it's got toxic in front of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I wonder if there's another word. You're talking about empathetic, expansive, creative, joyful. Like these are the words that you're thinking of. So how can you describe that? And maybe you don't need to find that word right now, but you've got those ideas. So just read to me what you've got so far, Laura, and we might bring this conversation to an end and finish on that. And then you can go away and let it
have a think.
Let it percolate for a while.
Yeah, so I help leaders and inspiring. Oh, hang on.
Should it be education leaders?
Yeah, educational leaders, yeah. I help heart-centered educational leaders and aspiring leaders to build the capacity of their staff. I'll stay with that, even though that doesn't really sit with me. I'd like to change that.
Okay.
To create school cultures that are creative and joyful. I like those two words that you said, creative and joyful, because school should be creative and school should be joyful. And
Robinson would love it.
I just haven't, I like just to be able to bounce out of bed and go, yes, you know, school is going to work is great, you know, whereas, and I want to be able to, yeah, I probably need to work on that a little bit more, but you're right. Once I have come up with, I'm looking through my notes here because I'm writing lots of notes.
Go for it.
Fresh page for one word per page. But looking at, I think once I have formulated that vision, that'll make it so much easier as to where I want to go with my coaching, and then doing the same with my counselling. And then that would be the first step. And then it's learning all the other things that come into it, because it's huge when you look at what other people have done, and I just go, wow, can I do that? But yeah.
Of course you can. So Laura, what would you say is your big takeaway from our conversation today?
The big takeaway is that you have actually given me a little bit of homework to really focus on what my what my vision is going to be moving forward, and really starting to formulate that. So I think once I've done that, I will feel more confident in taking the next steps further. And I wouldn't have thought, like the way that you were saying about I help X to do Y so that Z happens. That's something that I really need to spend some time focusing on. So next time we talk, I can actually say, I've got it. I know it now. So I think I know what I want to say. I just need to mind map words and get out of that the technical language of thinking about teaching and leadership, and start looking at it a little bit different. But I really love that. So thank you.
Awesome. So we got some really great insights there from Laura today. And I just wanted to fill you in. So I'm recording this a little bit later after we've done that, or after we've had that coaching conversation. And I just wanted to share with you what Laura did eventually come up with around her I help statement that she was working on during that conversation. And I'm very grateful to Laura for, letting me share this. It was really just a text message conversation that we had. And it's like the end of the work that she's been doing on that piece for the moment. And so she ends up with, I help educators to discover the power of courage to lead schools so that teachers and students thrive. And I love that. I think that's a really nice outcome from that conversation. And you can see that there was a lot of toing and froing and a lot of work involved to get to that point where she had a statement. And I guess for you, if you're working on something like this for yourself, just be aware that it's a process that is iterative, and you can keep changing it and keep building on it. And it's okay not to have the answer right off the bat. It's all right to actually engage in that process of working out who it is exactly that you want to serve, and making sure that whoever you choose is in alignment with your skills and your passions and your priorities, so that you're really empathetically serving your clients and helping them to become their best selves and to solve the problem that they have that you're able to help them with. So thank you all very much for listening. Take care. If this is the kind of conversation you'd like to have, here are some ways we can make that happen. You can connect with me via my website, larksong.com.au, or join the Get Out of Teaching Facebook group, or send me a message. You don't need to stay stuck in a job that makes you miserable. I offer a free 10-minute triage call to people who are ready to explore possibilities for the future. So let's have a chat. You've been listening to the Get Out of Teaching podcast. Please share it with your teacher buddies, and for show notes and other resources, visit larksong.com.au/podcast.